Dear students, welcome to you all for this session on irreversible thermodynamics. Before moving into the details of irreversible thermodynamics, we shall have an introduction into the topic. Most of the physico-chemical processes are irreversible in nature. For example, diffusion, conduction of heat or electricity, chemical transformations, etc. Irreversibility in chemically reacting systems or the systems undergoing chemical transformations is because of the different concentration of the reactants than at thermodynamic equilibrium. In the case of flow systems, the irreversibility is because of spatial variations in the intensive properties like pressure, temperature, density, concentration, etc. that leads to electrical conduction, thermal conduction, etc. Classical thermodynamics deals with systems in equilibrium, which are usually isolated closed systems, and the classical methods are not applicable to the systems involving transport processes like flow of heat, electricity, matter, etc. And such systems, that is systems involving transport processes, are not in equilibrium but they are said to be in steady state. So what is the difference between a system in thermodynamic equilibrium and a system in steady state? We shall consider system in thermodynamic equilibrium. Such systems will have stable values for the properties and no change will be taking place in the system. And in this case, change occurring in one direction is compensated by the change in opposite direction. For example, we can consider a system involving a chemical reaction where nitrogen combines with hydrogen forming ammonia. Now here the formation of ammonia is compensated by a reverse reaction involving its dissociation, forming back nitrogen and hydrogen, and the system is said to have an equilibrium. In the case of system in the steady state, the properties remain unchanged in the system, and the stability of the system is not because a flow in one direction being exactly compensated by a flow in opposite direction, but the stability is because of the flow in one direction being compensated by a combination of flows which may include flow in opposite direction. As an example, we shall consider the hydrogenation reaction where naphthalene is hydrogenated to tetraline and then to decalene. Now, in this system, concentration of tetraline remains constant over a period of time. The rate of formation of tetraline will be equal to rate of dehydrogenation of tetraline plus rate of formation of decalene. Dear students, please note the dehydrogenation of tetraline is the reverse reaction forming back naphthalene, and the formation of decalene is the hydrogenation of tetraline. Here in such systems, the constancy in concentration is limited to a certain duration of time, which is a characteristic of the particular system in the steady state. Now, such systems in the steady state can be divided into a number of infinitesimal subsystems in which thermodynamic properties like temperature, pressure, etc. have time independent values, so that the methods of equilibrium thermodynamics can be extended to such systems. Hence, the study will be termed as thermodynamics of steady state or thermodynamics of irreversible processes, or non-equilibrium thermodynamics. So remember, non-equilibrium systems involve spatial variations in the intensive properties and measurable properties like the thermal conductivity will be an equivalent of temperature in the case of equilibrium systems. Diffusion coefficient will be an equivalent of entropy in the case of equilibrium systems. Dear students, now we shall consider closed systems, the systems which involve exchange of energy with the surroundings and no matter is being exchanged. In the case of closed systems, we will be deriving a relationship for a change in the mass of a particular component present in the system. First, we shall consider the example of formation of ammonia. Now, according to the principle of conservation of mass, the net change in the mass of the system is equal to 0. That can also be represented in the form of a general equation represented by equation 1, that is summation over C nu C mc equal to 0. This is called as the stoichiometric equation. Nu C will be the stoichiometric coefficient of the component C and mc is the molar mass of component C. The stoichiometric coefficient for a component, that is, if it is a reactant, it will be negative, and the stoichiometric coefficient for a product will be positive. The degree of advancement or the extent of the reaction is represented by psi and given by d Donder in the form of an equation, that is dmc equal to mu c mc d psi, represented by equation 2, that is change in the mass of component C is equal to the stoichiometric coefficient multiplied by the molar mass of the component multiplied by the degree of advancement to a small extent, that is d psi. The total mass of the system will be the sum of the masses of all the component C that is present in the system. The principle of conservation of mass, when applied to a closed system, we get an equation summation over C nu C mc d psi equal to 0, given by equation 3. Since during a reaction concentration of the reactant decreases and concentration of the product increases, or in terms of the masses of the reactants decrease and those of the products increase during a reaction, that can be represented as minus dmr by mu r mr equal to dmp by nu p mp equal to d psi. The negative sign in the expression represents the decrease in the concentration, positive sign for the increase in concentration. Small letter m represent the mass of the particular component and capital M will be representing the molar mass. A general equation can be written dmc by mu c mc equal to d psi for any component C present in the system. The same expression can be represented in terms of mole number, that is dnc equal to mu c d psi, where the mole number Nc will be equal to mass of component C divided by its molar mass. And we can write an expression for the extent of the reaction Xi as Nc minus Nc naught divided by mu C, where mu C is the stoichiometric coefficient of the component involved in the reaction Nc is the number of moles of the species C at the time t, and Nc0 is the number of moles present initially. The variable dxi has the same value and sign for all substituents participating in the reaction. The extent of the reaction per unit time, also called as the rate of the reaction, is represented as V equal to dxi by dt. So here psi is the extent of the reaction and the extent of the reaction per unit time will be the rate. From equation 4 and 5 we can write dNc by dt is equal to nu c into V, where Nc is the mole number of component C, nu c is the stoichiometric coefficient of component C, and V will be the rate of the reaction. The equations from 2 to 6 are applicable to the simultaneous reactions, and the total change in mass of component C in the system will be written as summation over R nu c mc dxi c over R, where C is the component taking part in the reaction, R is the designation written as the subscript for the different reactions occurring in the system, and therefore dmc will be the sum of the changes in the mass resulting from different reactions. Students, now we shall consider the case of open systems. Open systems are those systems which are able to exchange both matter and energy with the surroundings. If we represent mass of any component C in the system as mc, then the net change in the mass of component C dmc will be equal to dimc plus demc. So in this equation 8, dimc represents the change in the mass of component inside the system, demc represents the change in the mass of the component due to the mass exchange with the surroundings. We can substitute for dimc from the equation 7 of the previous derivation, so that we get equation 9. The same equation can also be represented in terms of the mole number Nc given by equation 10. Comparing equation 1 and 9, we can write dmc equal to demc. That is, in open systems, the net change in the mass of any component C is equal to the change in the mass due to mass exchanged with the surroundings. Also, a certain amount of thermal energy is associated with the mass transfer, and that quantity is dependent on nature of matter, temperature, etc. We can apply the principle of conservation of energy to open systems. So, for an open system, the net thermal energy transfer will be equal to thermal energy transferred independent of mass transfer plus thermal energy transferred with mass transfer. Hence, according to the first law of thermodynamics, delta pi is equal to dE plus PdV, where delta pi is the thermal energy transferred in an interval delta t, which contains both mass independent and mass dependent transfer of energy. dE is the change in the internal energy of the system, P is the pressure, dV is the change in the volume of the system. By definition, enthalpy of a system H is equal to E plus PV, where E is the internal energy, P P is the pressure, V is the volume of the given system. By differentiation, dH is equal to dE plus PdV plus VdP. Number the equation as 12. Comparing equation 11 and 12, we get dH is equal to delta pi plus VdP. Number the equation as 13. Let us consider a closed system consisting of two phases 1 and 2, in which both matter and energy are exchanged between 1 and 2, though the entire system consisting of 1 and 2 is a closed system. That is, no flow of matter occurs from the surroundings to both phases 1 and 2. Applying equation 13 to each phase, we get dH1 is equal to delta 1 pi plus V1 dP1 and dH2 equal to delta 2 pi plus V2 dP2. If P1 is equal to P2 equal to P and V1 plus V2 equal to V, then we can write dH1 plus dH2, that will be the net change in the enthalpy of the closed system, that is equal to delta 1 pi plus delta 2 pi plus VdP. In equation 13 and 14 and other equations, the variation in pi is indicated as delta pi, where pi is not a state function and also is not a characteristic of phases, but it is a part of these phases, that is representation for the energy transferred. Hence, the association of pi with the two phases is indicated as delta 1 pi and delta 2 pi respectively. Substituting dE plus PdV equal to delta Q in equation 12, we get dH is equal to delta Q plus VdP. This equation holds good for a closed system with phases 1 and 2. Comparing equation 14 and 15, we can write delta Q equal to delta 1 pi plus delta 2 pi. Since the system is closed, delta 1 pi can be considered to be made up of two components, that is delta 1 pi is equal to delta I1 pi plus delta E1 q, where delta I1 pi is the energy flow from phase 2 to phase 1, delta E1 q is the heat flow from the exterior surroundings to phase 1. In a similar way, we can write delta 2 pi equal to delta I2 pi plus delta E2 q. Hence, substituting for delta 1 pi and delta 2 pi in equation 16, we get equation 17. If delta Q is the heat exchanged between the entire system and the surroundings, then delta Q is equal to delta E1Q plus delta E2Q. Thus, delta I1 pi plus delta I2 pi equal to 0. Considering the flow of heat from phase 1 to phase 2, equation 18 may be rewritten as delta I1Q plus delta I2Q equal to 0. This equation represents the conservation of energy for the system, or it is a proof that in the case of open systems the energy is conserved.